Hi, I'm Madeline.
I'm Andrew.
We each have a list of works that influenced our childhood.
Communally, together.
Together, yes. We don't know what the other person wrote. It's not really a game. It's just we thought it would be fun to go through them and talk about how they influenced us.
And see what the other person wrote. So do you want to go first?
Okay. I actually forget what I wrote. Oh. The Rats of Nib. Bet you weren't expecting that.
No, I wasn't at all. Man. Please explain.
I will explain it. I wouldn't even say we watched this that many times. Did you ever read the book?
I think Mom read it to us.
Oh, I don't even remember the book, honestly. I remember the movie. And this is why, but it was very scary. And very sad. And I feel like that was common in, movies in the late 90s for children were terrifying.
I don't think that you knew this, but I actually re-watched this about a year ago.
Oh, really?
And it totally holds up. All of the voice actors are actually really incredible. It has all the elements of a good story to it.
Well, that's the thing, is that it was a very adult sort of concept. It was like the protagonist was like the mother, first of all, which was rare. And there's like a lot of anxiety, a lot of death, a lot of just scary themes, like adult themes.
She was trying to find, I think, some type of medicine to help her child who was about to die.
Exactly. So and her husband had just died. Anyway, I just remember it being very scary, but I think it influenced our childhood. It probably gave me a lot of nightmares and slightly increased my anxiety, but I almost think it's symbolic of there were some great films and books that had mature themes.
Yeah, I think that it definitely defines our taste pretty well as far as children's movies go. Growing up, I started out a little bit more mainstream. I just went straight for The Lord of the Rings, which of course I think influences everyone, but especially our generation of people who were small children when the movies started coming out, and were just this insane, intense pop culture phenomenon. And then even more in a special way for us, it was something that we already cared a ton about. I remember when I was a 2-year-old, I used to trace the words of the book, just pretending that I could read so that I could take part of the book.
Yeah, and we also loved the cartoons.
And
The Hobbit and all that.
We had the audio cassettes. Do you remember listening to those? The BBC presentations? I used to listen to those all the time.
Really?
And by listening to those all the time, I felt like I knew the story before I ever got to a point where I could, remember being surprised by the story. So it became just this very essential way of learning storytelling and having these images to associate with certain emotions as a kid. And I think that really stuck with me.
Yeah. Andrew had a Frodo doll.
Yeah.
Probably never heard of a Frodo doll.
No, but he was the best of friends. I also had a Frodo costume. I used for Frodo one year and then Pippin the next year, because I really didn't know how to dress up as anyone for Halloween except for
Lord of the Rings
characters. But
yeah,
I think that was definitely a big part of our communal childhoods, even before the main movies came out.
Definitely. Yeah, huge. Okay, well, I did 2 for this.
Great.
Okay, so I know it's not really, these both deserve their own slots, but they're both Miyazaki films. And I chose Totoro because it was it was one of those quintessential things of our childhood. Just the imagery. We had Totoro plushies everywhere, Totoro poster. It was so magical and so unique. And the music and just everything about it, I feel was a staple of our childhood. But Kiki's Delivery Service also, I think, what I loved about that was it was so slow, and the rising and falling action was just this young girl dealing with her emotions and going through a slump, like a sort of depression, as she lost her powers and she was trying to figure out who she was without her powers. And it was I think it was interesting that it was a foreign film, because most of the films we watched growing up, it was things happened to a character, you know, they went on an adventure and things happened to them, whereas this was very much just about her dealing with her emotions. And I thought that was healthy, a healthy plot and a beautiful thing to see And it was so, and then we were just engrossed in it. Like, it didn't have to have all the crazy, wild action to be something we were just absorbed in.
Yeah, and there, I mean, I think of specific images in these that stand out so much. I just remember a couple scenes that, one is that monster bus that they would crawl into for
Cat
Totoro.
bus.
Yeah, the cat bus. Just the animation of that was nuts and weird, and it was so weird that it kind of stuck with you.
Can't you hear in your head the way the cat bus meowed? Yeah, you hear it perfectly. That's a weird thing. It's like imprinted in my brain. All the details.
And then I also remember, do you remember the hay scene in Kiki's Delivery Service where she goes to bed in like this enormous like bale of hay in a train? Yeah, I don't know why. That was what stuck out to me from Kiki.
That's amazing. But it does. That's so fascinating. These images that stick with you.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. So.
Yeah. Okay, it's my turn for the second.
Yeah.
And I chose Narnia, which is again another mainstream. But one of the things that I think specifically set it apart as something that really awakened our imaginations was that our family is set in the same way that 4 children are in Narnia. So it goes boy, girl, and we're the middle siblings. And so that way we could kind of project ourselves onto the different characters.
Here's the thing. I'm going to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead. Interrupt
right now.
me.
Because I had to be Susan. And no one wants to be Susan. They were all loving it. They were like, and Gracie is Lucy, and Madeline's boring old Susan.
It's an attitude thing. I was Edmund, and Edmund is the worst person, you know. But
no,
I just
I would argue that Susan was the worst.
With the least personality, I suppose.
It was so boring, but I'm sorry to interrupt you. It
Yeah,
was
okay.
great. It was.
We could project ourselves onto it, and we had this old PC game, and of course, if we were to ever play the PC game, then the easy way to distribute playing time was we all got to play whoever was our character when they were actually playing the game. And I was also thinking about how I don't necessarily know how much of the story really like stood out to me as a kid, or how much of it like really resonated with me, but the aesthetic of the idea of going into this magical winter forest and having this adventure with your siblings where you had to fight, you know, in this classic good against evil with the magical wardrobe. All of that, I think, really sparks children's imaginations, and that was what really stuck out to me, more so than maybe the specific story behind The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
And we did. I remember going into our kitchen closet and really truly believing that we were gonna make it to Narnia.
If we were patient enough, so we stood there. I mean, we sat there for a long time.
We would bring snacks in there.
There's 4 of us, so it was pretty crowded.
Yeah, that was special. Okay. Okay. Now it's my turn to be mainstream. I couldn't not. I almost didn't because I had enough like interesting like weird things that we love as kids that I didn't put. I almost didn't put it. But I'm like, so much of our childhood was all about Harry Potter.
Yeah, because you can't see it. It's Harry Potter. That's number 3.
You know, it's small. Yeah, Harry Potter. Well, because there was first of all the cassette tapes, Jim Dale's voice. It was just constant. It was constantly going. We would always, when we played pretend all together, it was so great because there were enough like male and female roles that we could switch it up. We just moved, and I found this fan fiction I wrote when I was 7 about Harry Potter, and I feel like it just sparked so much imagination.
I was thinking about how, because I think our generation is still very much caught up in the Harry Potter mania, and I was thinking about how part of that craze comes not only because it's such a great story that we all remember, but because we're nostalgic for that part of our lives when it was so prevalent. And I was thinking about how it is associated with so many other things, about being a kid and being allowed to stay up till midnight to go to the bookstores and wait for the next book to come out, or to go and watch the movies and then for that to be the big thing that everyone would talk about at schools. Or that you would go to, you know, how many birthday parties can you think of that were Harry Potter themed that we would go to? And so we become nostalgic not only for Harry Potter as this incredible series that still holds up, but also for the time in our generation's lives of how much joy that brought us.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Okay, cool. Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Awesome. All right, I think we're getting into maybe not super pop culture. Okay,
oh, how? Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I chose Calvin and Hobbes. And I was thinking about what to say for it. And it's a comic, you know, so I thought, man, I'm going to talk really seriously about it. And it's just kind of a goofy thing. But I thought about the different ways that it inspired us. And one of the things that I thought was great is how healthy all the relationships in it is that you might first look at Calvin and Hobbes and think about, you know, Calvin always making his parents so angry and his teacher angry, and he's just this nutso kid who lives in his own world and goes and plays with Hobbes or whatever. But there are specific scenes that develop his relationship with both his father and his mother, and it shows both the care that his dad has for him as well as the care that he has for his dad, and then also scenes that show his mom's care for him and his care for his mom. So it shows actually, I think, a really nuanced nuclear family, and then also just the crazy imagination that he has, and how valuable that was as in childhood.
And also how completely, no matter what age you are, I remember being 6 years old because Calvin was 6, and being like, oh, I'm like Calvin because I'm 6 years old and I'm reading this. Now you read Calvin and Hobbes. The concepts he talks about as a 6-year-old, like, they're so, like, I only now begin to understand fully some of the philosophical stuff that he talks about. It's very, very deep, but it was still funny and all-consuming when we were 6 years old.
Yeah.
So that's magical.
I was also thinking about how it inspired maybe both of us, in that I think we generally have negative perspectives on the modern school system, and Calvin is undeniably one of the smartest kids that's ever put on page, but he's also the stupidest kid in school. And I thought that it showed really well how sometimes the school system can't reach certain intelligent people, and I think that I aspired more to be intelligent in the way that Calvin was rather than school smart, which I thought was a valuable way that it might have resonated with us growing up.
That is a fantastic point.
Oh shucks.
Okay, well, I think I know it. Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought it was funny.
First, this was my favorite movie for about a year, but like there were a couple months where I would watch it every day. Do you remember watching it a lot?
Yeah.
I think
I
remember
like the number one that we rewatched.
I watched it all the time. I was obsessed with it. And I think personally, there was a time also where I would wear a red t-shirt and a red baseball cap, and I just wouldn't take it off because I wanted to be Alvin. And I think that he resonated with me because he had like his smart older brother Simon, and his...
We have a smart older brother.
And his angelic little brother Theodore. Andrew was quite angelic. And what was Alvin's thing? Well, as a kid with undiagnosed ADHD who didn't really have a thing, I think that he just resonated with me because he was kind of wild, but he was the main character. He was that middle child. I was obsessed with him, and it was a great movie also.
Yeah, I think it's weird that of all the movies to rewatch over and over again, that is a pretty niche movie. But it was the one where they travel all the way around the world, and they're
They were musical numbers.
Yeah, they go against the Chipettes.
The Chipettes. Yeah.
And everything is just put on halt when they find a lovable penguin. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, are we gonna go for the race or are we gonna go for the penguin? Hopefully I'm getting the plot point right. But
that was really important. The Chipettes took a detour to take their penguin friend home to its mother in Antarctica.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Very influential movie, I suppose. Can I do number 4 now?
Yeah.
Okay. Les Miserables.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I think children can sense quality just as well as adults if they don't put it into as many words. And I remember as a kid feeling like I got to be a part of something a lot cooler and a lot like genuinely like quality stuff as we took part in Les Miserables. My first memory of it is that all of the older kids and the parents got to go see the Les Miserables production when it came into town, and I had to be babysat, and I was miserable about that. And then they came back with all of these incredible, lush memories of this insane production, as well as the album that we listened to on repeat ever after.
Ever after.
Yeah, I just think that I could sense the quality in that, and that made us project ourselves into it a lot.
We recreated the Les Mis play we had family friends, and we'd get together like once a month. Every time, our poor parents had to watch us redo the Les Mis production, recast it every time, perform all the songs. Because I actually haven't read the book.
I have all 1,400 pages.
Oh, number 5.
I'm kind of excited. This is your last one.
This is my last one. Okay. I was gonna put. Can I tell you what I was gonna put?
Yeah. Like honorable mention, sure.
Honorable mention. I was gonna put Pajama Sam, which is
my goodness,
a computer game that we played that was very integral to our childhood. But I couldn't really figure out like that deep of a reason why it affected us. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Why it was so influential. It was just we loved it so much. But SpongeBob. It slaps. SpongeBob slaps. And I was trying to think of now I don't think that SpongeBob has a monopoly on developing our sense of humor. But I was trying to think of things we found really funny growing up.
You'll love my number 5 too.
Oh, great. But wouldn't you say SpongeBob was like weirdly a big one?
Yeah, I would say that SpongeBob is to kids what The Office is to adults. In that, like, you are on the in if you were able to cite SpongeBob episodes freely. I think SpongeBob's sense of humor to this day holds up. When I look at some of those episodes and think, yeah, that was really funny.
It was hilarious. There's a reason why it lasted so long.
Well, actually, I might want to piggyback off of that on my 5th one. Because I did Gilligan's Island.
Oh!
Gilligan's Island, for those who don't know, is a 60s sitcom about these castaways who end up on an island. And they always are trying to get off, and they make these beautiful plans that should surely work, and then Gilligan, who's the lovable idiot, always gets in the way, and it's always ruined. And I started thinking, you once said something I thought very, very smart. You once said something very perceptive about our sense of humor and how slapstick fits into our dry sense of humor and how they have some sort of relationship with each other. And I see that both in SpongeBob and Gilligan's Island. Do you remember what that was?
What I said?
Yeah.
No idea.
That's too bad.
Are you gonna I know because that's true.
Yeah.
I think that we have it. Well, what I always say is the mix of goofy and witty is like prime because there's got to be something that's a little kooky about it, but there's also the intelligence and the sarcasm and the wit is without that within the goofiness, and the goofiness is just stupid to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think we've always been sentimental children. And there's something sentimental about the simplicity and slapstick humor, but that when we apply it, we are applying it in a dry sense of humor. Anyway, that was kind of my take on it. I don't know if that's right or wrong. But, I don't know, again, maybe SpongeBob and Gilligan's Island kind of both fit that bill, though I would still say their senses of humor are different. Anyway, those are our lists. Those are, we have some mainstream. But some of those things are kind of underground. We didn't overlap at all.
We didn't overlap. I'm shocked. Are there any glaring omissions?
I was gonna put Redwall.
I was gonna put Redwall.
Yeah.
I didn't because I thought you would.
I was gonna say Redwall. I think fits kind of similarly into the Rats of Nim vibe, which is like strangely serious for a story about woodland creatures, a cartoon about woodland creatures fighting each other. But
living in an abbey, like weird Christian undertones, but like very stoic
and very, very violent.
And violent, yes.
Several characters got terrible burns from scorching oatmeal.
Yes.
And they became disfigured for the rest of their lives. Do you remember that?
Including the scourge. I was talking to our friend Sophie the other day, and she was like, we were talking about Redwall, because she would come over to watch the show, and she's like, after that Clooney the Scourge episode, my mom said, yeah, take a break.
Can I just go again in that story of a fox who gets terrible disfiguring Burns from oatmeal, and he ends up coming back in the sequel as the embittered supervillain who comes back and wreaks revenge on them for disfiguring him with their oatmeal. That's a really weird
The
storyline.
weapon that was oatmeal. It was crazy. Well, I remember also I made all my kindergarten teachers call me cornflower after one of the mice in Redwall. What an obscure thing.
I was Martin the Warrior for Halloween in 2nd grade. No one's gonna know that.
No, that was one of the Redwall books. There were many, by the way.
25 or so. I read all of them. But anyway, well, thank you for watching. These are, we hope you were able to resonate at least with some of them.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, we really need to work on our intros and conclusions.